At my son's birthday party, Julian's widowed sister-in-law stormed in, heavily pregnant. "Julian, if you don't want me and the baby, I'll die," she cried out and turned to run. Julian froze, about to follow, but he subconsciously looked at me. Under everyone's shocked gazes, I calmly said, "Go ahead. Buy the child an ice cream when you come back." No one noticed the clenched fist under the tablecloth. In my previous life, I desperately held on to Julian, refusing to let him go. As a result, the pregnant widow ran out and was hit by a car, killing both her and the baby. Julian hated me to the core. He tied me up while I slept and trampled me underfoot. Serena didn't even want a title. She only asked that the child not be illegitimate, but you still forced her to her death. Now that she's dead, why are you still alive? I begged and pleaded, but he wouldn't listen. He hung me above Serena's grave, demanding that I atone for my sins day and night. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at my son's birthday party. All the guests stared at me. Julian looked astonished, as if he hadn't understood my words. I smiled faintly and spoke again. "Go ahead." Julian's eyes lit up, and he left without hesitation. Many of the other children's parents were present, and began whispering, "Tisk tsk the magnanimity. No wonder she's the director's wife. She's being ridden over by a mistress and she's still smiling and pretending everything is fine." I clenched my fist so tightly that my nails dug into my palm, and only the pain managed to calm me down. Pretending nothing had happened, I invited everyone to cut the birthday cake. But the guests exchanged glances, made up excuses, grabbed their children, and left in a hurry. In an instant, only my son and I were left at the party, surrounded by a mess. My son stood in front of the collapsed cake, clutching the transformer that Julian had given him, and whispered, "Is Daddy coming back?" I knelt down and hugged my son tightly, bursting into tears. "Mommy's here, Mommy will always be here." In my previous life, Julian fell in love with his widowed sister-in-law, Serena. I made up an excuse to have her move out of our house, and Julian said nothing at the time. It wasn't until Serena died in a car accident, taking her baby with her, that Julian went crazy and wanted to make us pay with our lives. My body was a bloody mess, and I begged him to spare our child. But his eyes were bloodshot as he sneered. "You're just a substitute for my Serena. You're not even worthy of Serena's toes. And why should your child be compared to Serena's child?" That's when I realized how ridiculous my reluctance had been all these years. This life, I will not repeat my mistakes. After instructing the servants to clean up, I called my father, whom I hadn't contacted in years. I thought he would laugh at me, but to my surprise he said in a deep voice, "I'll have my assistant pick you up right away." Although he tried to hide it, I could hear the tremor of excitement in his voice. After hanging up, I realized that my father, who always paid attention to detail, hadn't even asked for the address. I suddenly understood, and my heart ached. He had been watching over me all along. Seeing that it was almost time, I put my luggage in the living room, and went outside to see if anyone had arrived. I had only walked a short distance when I saw Julian and Serena embracing each other. They were both startled to see me. Serena hid behind Julian like a frightened rabbit. Julian's brow furrowed instantly. He shielded Serena and roared at me. "I knew it. You were faking it all along. How far are you going to push Serena?" I bit my teeth hard, desperately suppressing my fear of Julian, and explained in a trembling voice, "No, I just..." Suddenly, Serena lunged at me, clutching my arm tightly. "I'm sorry, Adeline, I just want to give the child a name. I really don't care about myself." Her fingertips dug into my flesh, as painful as a dagger piercing skin. I jerked my arm back, but Serena was a pregnant woman after all, so I instinctively eased my strength. But Serena gave me a venomous look, fell heavily to the ground, and let out a piercing scream. Julian's eyes turned bloodshot instantly, veins popping out on his forehead. He stepped forward and gripped my neck tightly. "How dare you hurt Serena?" A sense of suffocation enveloped me. My face turned red, and I kept slapping Julian's hand, but it was all in vain. While struggling, the right shoulder of my clothes slipped down. His gaze fell on my shoulder, his expression froze, and he finally released his hand. I collapsed to the ground like a puddle of mud, gasping for breath, catching a glimpse of the scar on my shoulder. Back then, he was still a surgeon, and someone came to harass the hospital. In the chaos, I was stabbed to save him, the wound so deep that the bone was visible. He held me and wept bitterly, as if he was the one who was hurt. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. At this moment, Julian looked down at me condescendingly, his expression fierce. If you dare to hurt Serena again, don't blame me for disregarding our years of friendship. With that, he scooped up Serena in his arms and strode away without looking back. Serena looked back at me with a smug expression. I returned home in a mess and tidied myself up. In just a moment, my father's personal assistant arrived. As I was about to leave with my sleeping child, Julian called. Sign the divorce agreement in the study. My child with Serena can't be illegitimate. If you don't sign, I'll sign. This was something I had always wanted. How could I refuse? His voice paused, and his tone softened a lot. Don't worry, I know you have nowhere to go. I won't abandon you and your son. You'll still live here, and I'll take a day each week to see you. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Serena call out to Julian in a weak voice. Julian hung up first. I went straight to the study, saw the divorce agreement on the table, and signed my name without hesitation. Back at home, my father couldn't hide the joy in his eyes, but he said, "Your room has always been kept for you." However, the furnishings in the room had not changed in 10 years, as if I had only gone out for a trip. I burst into tears instantly. My father was a top tycoon and rarely came home. My mother had severe depression and attempted suicide, but ended up in a vegetative state. I called my father, and he replied coldly, "I know." I hated his indifference, took my mother away from home, and completely severed ties with my father. I didn't even inform him about my marriage. Julian still doesn't know who my father is. My son woke up, and I patiently explained the situation to him. I thought he would cry, but unexpectedly he hugged me and said, "Mommy, wherever you go, I'll go. I want Mommy to smile every day and stop crying under the covers." I couldn't help but tear up. But after all, my son was still a child, and it was inevitable that he would be sad to leave his familiar home. To cheer him up, the next day, I took him to the amusement park he had been looking forward to for a long time. Never would I have imagined that upon entering the amusement park, I would see Julian and Serena taking wedding photos on the carousel. Dad, when my son saw Julian, his eyes lit up and he ran over eagerly. My heart leaped, and I quickly followed. My son hugged Julian's leg, his face full of joy. So Dad was waiting for us here. Julian instinctively pushed my son away, looking at Serena in a fluster. Serena pursed her lips tightly, tears dripping onto her pure white wedding dress, appearing pitiful. Julian was enraged and roared at me as I ran over. "No wonder you agreed so readily last night. You had it all planned. You actually brought your son all the way here. You are truly despicable." My son, pushed away, stood there at a loss looking at Julian, wanting to cry but not daring to, tears welling up in his eyes, constantly apologizing. "Dad, I'm sorry, Dad, I'm sorry." My heart twisted in agony. In my past life, Julian's brother died in a car accident, and Serena lost her memory from the shock, always mistaking Julian for his brother. Julian took her home, and cared for her meticulously. When my son played with toy cars at home, she screamed shrilly, saying that seeing cars reminded her of the car accident. Julian turned around and threw away all of my son's toy cars. But when Julian drove her around, she didn't feel any discomfort. When my son used red paint in his drawings, she cried bitterly, saying it looked like blood. Julian threw away my son's crayons and forbade him from drawing. Seeing his things gradually disappearing, my son began to fear that Julian would throw him away. I comforted him. "Dad won't hurt you," until Julian heartlessly killed my son. Only then did I realize that I had underestimated his affection for Serena. "I just brought my son to play. I didn't know you were here." I stepped forward to protect my son, my gaze falling on their wedding photos, and I instinctively stopped speaking. Taking wedding photos couldn't be a spur-of-the-moment decision. They must have planned it long ago. "Stop with these coy tricks. There are no such coincidences in the world. I've already agreed to spend one day a week with you from now on. What more do you want?" Julian scoffed, as if he had seen through me long ago. Serena struggled to get off the carousel, staggered to Julian, reached out and grabbed his clothes, crying her heart out. Julian, don't get angry because of me. It doesn't matter if we don't take the wedding photos. After saying that, she squatted down and said to my son, Noah, Dad will play with you later. Just as she leaned in to say something to my son, he suddenly pushed Serena to the ground and cried out loudly, You're a bad person, kill the bad person. Serena fell to the ground, clutching her stomach tightly, groaning in pain, but the look she gave me was venomous. Seeing this, people gradually gathered around. Even hitting a pregnant woman. Are you even human? You're worse than an animal. Scum. Your mother should have flushed you down the drain back then. Spoiled brats are because of spoiled parents. They all deserve to die. Julian was completely enraged, pushed me away, grabbed my son's collar, lifted him up, and headed towards the musical fountain in the center. My son was terrified and cried incessantly, shouting, Mommy save me, Mommy save me. I crashed into the railing next to me, and a steel wire scraped a large wound on my arm, bleeding profusely. At that moment, I felt no pain at all, frantically rushing forward to save my son. But Julian was too strong, I couldn't save him at all. I could only kneel on the ground, desperately clutching his pants leg and begging, Julian, he's your son. Please don't hurt him, let's go, we'll go far, far away immediately. I only begged that he would let my son go, seeing as Serena hadn't been hurt too badly. But Julian ignored my pleas, lifted my son high above the surface of the fountain, and said coldly, Adeline, if you can't teach your son properly, I have plenty of ways to help you teach him. With that, he suddenly smashed him down with ferocity. Splash! My son was slammed hard into the pool, the broken mosaics on the bottom cutting his skin, and instantly staining the water red. A burst of cheers erupted around us. That's satisfying. Spoiled brats deserve to be taught a lesson. My breasts feel unblocked. Awesome. Julian supported Serena, and left gracefully amidst the cheers. I pulled my son out and rushed him to the hospital. My son had a fractured right leg, and was covered in injuries. But he bit his lip and didn't cry the entire time. Only after his wounds were treated did he speak. Mom, I don't think I did anything wrong. Aunt Serena said that whatever I love, she will make Dad throw it away. Now I love you the most and she wants Dad to kill you. Mom, I have to protect you. Instantly bursting into tears, I hugged my son tightly. Yes, you didn't do anything wrong. When we returned home, I found out that someone had posted what happened at the amusement park online. For a time, it was all about how spoiled brats should be taught a lesson, and how satisfying it was to see it. Some even started trying to dox my son. Fortunately, my father quickly handled it and erased all traces of it. I was filled with lingering fear. In the following days, while taking care of my son, I started getting busy. It was all because my father was holding a banquet to formally introduce me to everyone. The banquet was held on the private yacht that my father had given me. On the day of the banquet, after settling my son in, I walked onto the deck wearing $1 million custom gown, only to see Serena looking at me with a frown. With so many guests present today, I didn't want to pay attention to her and turned to leave. But I didn't expect her to chase after me, dropping her usual weakness and revealing her true face, mocking. Just a piece of dirt that everyone can step on. Do you really think that by putting on a fake designer dress worth $100, you can fly up a branch and become a phoenix? My silence only fueled her arrogance. She leaned closer, her tone vicious. How shameless, after watching so many videos of Julian and me being intimate, you're still sticking around. Do you think Julian loves me so much that he might kill your son for me? I was trembling with anger and raised my hand and slapped her, but she covered her swollen face with a look of triumph. My heart skipped a beat. Adeline. Sure enough, Julian's furious voice came from not far away. He strode forward, veins bulging in his arms, grabbed my neck tightly, and pushed half my body over the railing. Seeing the sharks not far away, I was terrified and grabbed his arm tightly. My father is Arthur. If you kill me, he definitely won't let you off. Before Julian could speak, a burst of laughter erupted on the deck. Trying to hook a rich guy, a gold digger, and pretending to be a rich young lady. Doesn't she know whose territory this is today? This is the Jiang family, Mr. Arthur is known for his temper. Anyone who even said a harsh word to his daughter would be beaten so badly, they couldn't get out of bed for half a month. Someone like you who is impersonating his daughter and ruining her banquet. I don't even know if they'll leave you with a complete corpse. Who doesn't know that Mr. Arthur is crazy about his daughter? You think you can get away with ruining her party? Julian snorted. Do you think I'm stupid? After all these years, don't you think I'd know? With that, he pushed me outwards with force. My eyes widened as I gripped his arm tightly, feeling despair. What are you doing? Everyone shuddered and looked at their father in unison. The latter looked at everyone with an imposing air of authority. It was well known that the head of the Jiang family had a bad temper. They dared not displease him at this critical juncture. I was about to speak when Serena winked at the large man beside her. A pair of big hands clamped over my mouth, and they silently pushed me down into the blind spot nearby to hide. Julian, though feeling this was inappropriate, thought it was better to avoid trouble and didn't say anything to stop them. What are you doing? Serena, with a smile on her face and a hint of flattery, said to father. Mr. Arthur, it's nothing. We were just feeling stuffy inside, so we came out here to get some air. Father frowned slightly, staring at the two of them and asked, Have you seen my daughter? She's wearing a purple dress. Serena and Julian exchanged a look, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. I'm here. My mouth was clamped shut, and I couldn't speak. Father looked around, frowned, and took out his phone to call me. The familiar ringtone sounded from near the railing. Father immediately flew into a rage, striding over. He picked up the phone from the ground, roaring in anger at Julian and Serena. Where is the owner of this phone? Father glared at them, but receiving no response, he directly strode over. The person who was holding me down suddenly lost their nerve and ran off in another direction. Finally, Father saw me looking miserable. The anxiety in his heart finally subsided. My vision went black, and I fainted completely. Julian, looking at the enraged father, still tried to justify himself. Adeline was in the wrong first. But father wouldn't allow him to say a single bad word about me, narrowing his eyes and staring intently at him. At this time, many people gathered around. Serena's father, Dr. Bell, quickly ran over and slapped Serena hard across the face. The latter covered her red and swollen cheek in surprise, looking at her father in disbelief. From childhood, her father had never hit her. She never expected that, in full view of everyone, he would actually slap her. Dad! She cried out aggrievedly, tears streaming down her face. But Dr. Bell glared at her and interrupted angrily, Shut up. Dr. Bell ignored Julian and turned to my father. Mr. Arthur, my daughter lost her husband not long ago and isn't in a good mental state. Please allow me to take her home first. Julian clenched his fists tightly, unwillingly watching Serena being taken away. At this moment, he felt a chill run down his spine. He turned his head and realized that my father was looking at him with narrowed eyes. Julian's heart skipped a beat. He had never imagined that I was the daughter of the Jiang family. The Jiang family was a top-tier wealthy family in the capital. Even the Bai family's hospital relied on investment from the Jiang family. No wonder Dr. Bell was in such a hurry to distance himself. Wasn't it said that the Jiang family's daughter was studying abroad and had only just returned? How did she become Adeline? Julian felt uneasy under my father's gaze, a coldness creeping up from the soles of his feet to the back of his head, making his scalp tingle. Fortunately, father didn't say anything, only gave him a deep look before turning and leaving with me, who had fainted in his arms. Just as Julian hesitated whether to follow, a handsome man walked over. The man stepped to his side and said in a low voice, You might as well investigate how your brother died. Suddenly, something seemed to explode in Julian's head. He grabbed the man's collar tightly and roared, What exactly do you mean? The man was not afraid at all, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were like ice. Go investigate it yourself. Once you investigate, you'll know what I mean. Julian didn't linger, turning and leaving the place. He still couldn't resist and had someone investigate his brother's death. However, he never expected that his brother hadn't died in a car accident. He gripped the phone in his hand, his eyes reddening as he looked at the information sent to him. He and his brother were twins, but their personalities were worlds apart. From childhood, his brother was very obedient, while he was much more mischievous. But that didn't affect their good relationship. His brother's last words were for him to take care of his sister-in-law and parents. If the information in his hands was true, he couldn't imagine the immense pain his brother had endured before his death. Like a walking corpse, he returned to his parents' house. Unexpectedly, Serena was there too, sitting on the sofa in the living room. They were talking about something, and Serena was constantly wiping away tears, sobbing softly. Seeing him appear, they stopped talking abruptly and looked at him together. A strange feeling welled up in Julian's heart, but he lost the desire to confront them for the moment. What was the point? His brother would never come back. His heart felt like it was being torn apart, the pain almost unbearable. With a grim face, he slammed the information he was holding onto the table and turned to leave. Serena, stunned, picked up the information he had dropped, her eyes widening and her body trembling uncontrollably. She threw the information away and desperately ran towards the door. Julian, in a daze, somehow returned to the place where he used to live with me. The furnishings inside were exactly the same as before, as if nothing had changed. Only everything was covered in dust. His heart felt like it had a piece torn out of it, the pain taking his breath away. He sat blankly in front of the desk, and discovered a diary I had written in the drawer. Compelled by something, he opened the diary and carefully read it page by page. May 20th. Serena sent me another video. Julian in the video is so gentle. When we first started dating, he used to treat me like that too. But when exactly did everything change? May 30th. Serena sent me a photo of Julian sleeping soundly in bed. I know she wants to tell me that Julian is hers. But I'm not willing to give up. I can't live without him. I can't bear to. My diary pages turned in his hands, and as he read, tears dripped onto the paper. Until he turned to one page, his eyes suddenly widened, his hands clenched the diary tightly, and his lips trembled uncontrollably. July 20th. Serena told me triumphantly how Julian pushed her down, how fiercely he loved her, and even sent me nude photos of them in bed together. The last word was written so hard that the pen pierced the paper, creating a hole. There were no more entries after that. Serena had been faking amnesia all along. And I knew about all these things but pretended not to, tolerating everything from him. But he hurt me again and again. Thinking of this, he wanted to slap himself. Holding the diary, a glimmer of hope arose in his heart. Maybe he still had a chance, that he could beg me to forgive him. I loved him so much, I would definitely forgive him. Thinking of this, he felt much better. Julian. In a daze, he seemed to hear my voice. He looked up abruptly, his face full of joy. But he only saw Serena standing timidly not far away, not daring to look him in the eye. She tried to walk towards him. Julian looked at her. She always looked like this, pitiful and lovable. But he had never imagined that beneath her weak appearance lay a heart of a viper. He looked at her coldly, his eyes devoid of emotion. Serena wept, her face streaked with tears. Julian, don't misunderstand. The car accident was really just an accident. Caleb, Julian felt a pang in his heart, followed by a nameless rage. He lunged forward and tightly gripped Serena's neck, veins bulging on his arms. He wished he could tear her to pieces. You don't have the right to say that name. Why? Why did you kill him? He never imagined that his brother had been murdered by Serena. Seeing Serena on the verge of being strangled to death, his reason finally returned, and he released his grip. Serena burst into tears. Julian, I couldn't help it. I loved the wrong person. The person I always loved was you. Julian stared, his eyes wide with disbelief. It turned out Serena had fallen in love with Julian at first sight in college. But fate had her meet Caleb instead, and she mistook him for Julian. After marrying Caleb, she saw Julian again, and realized her mistake. Was it wrong for her to want to correct her past mistake? Julian listened blankly to everything she said, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over him. He nearly fainted. Just because of this absurd reason, she had murdered his brother, drugged him, and completely manipulated his family. He suddenly remembered his brother, who before he died, had sent him a message asking him to take good care of his wife. He also recalled the harassing videos and photos I received daily. Instantly, his heart felt like it was being sliced into pieces, causing him unbearable pain. He abandoned the limp Serena and rushed out the door. I knew nothing of what had happened with Julian. When I woke up in the hospital, I saw Julian, unshaven and disheveled. I didn't even recognize him at first. Seeing him, I instinctively recoiled, putting distance between us, and looked at him warily. Julian was deeply hurt by my reaction. He concealed the pain in his eyes. He tentatively reached out and grabbed my hand, his eyes instantly reddening. Adeline, I'm sorry. Please don't be afraid of me, okay? I won't hurt you anymore. I know I was wrong. I jerked my hand away and looked at him coldly. Please leave. I don't want to see you again. He seemed not to have expected me to treat him this way and froze on the spot. After a few seconds he came to his senses and begged. Adeline, please forgive me. I was deceived by Serena. As he said this, he suddenly gritted his teeth. It was all Serena's scheme. She not only murdered my brother, but she also sowed discord between us. If it weren't for her, our family could have lived happily ever after. Then, as if it were a precious treasure, he pulled out my old, worn diary and handed it to me. Adeline, I didn't know she did so much to you behind my back. She really deserves to die. Intense hatred swirled in Julian's eyes. I took the diary and casually tossed it into the nearby trash can. Thank you for bringing me the trash I didn't get around to throwing away. Okay, you can leave now. Julian stared at me, his eyes wide. Unwilling to accept this, he rushed to pick up the diary from the trash can. But I stopped him with my voice. Trash picked up from a garbage heap is still trash. You. Julian was deeply wounded and unable to refute me. He looked heartbroken. Are you really going to be so heartless? Seeing his feigned display of affection, I only felt disgust. Serena certainly deserves to die, but what about you? Are you just pushing all the blame onto her? Did she force you to hurt me again and again? Julian, it's not her. It's all you. These are all your choices. You're the one who's always been heartless, not me. My words hit him like a hammer, shattering his heart into pieces. He got up and picked up the diary from the trash can, clutching it tightly in his hand. Adeline, no matter how much you hate me, I will still go for the matching, hoping to donate my heart to you. After saying that, he turned and left. I stared blankly at his departing figure. It wasn't until Miles returned from abroad that I suddenly understood. What exactly did you tell him? He said he wants to donate his heart to me. I was only physically weak. Plus, my emotional fluctuations had been quite significant recently, leading to physical exhaustion and fainting. What does it have to do with heart surgery? Miles shrugged nonchalantly. That idiot, I just casually told him that you had a heart problem and needed surgery but couldn't find a suitable heart. And he said he'd go get tested to see if he was a match for you. Don't look at me like that. I just wanted to see if his heart was black or red. How could he be so unethical? He's lucky we live in a society governed by law now, otherwise humph. His words made me laugh, and the gloom of the past few days was swept away. A corner of my heart collapsed, instantly becoming incredibly soft. As the youngest son of the Liu group, Miles had been spoiled since childhood, reckless and unruly, but utterly obedient to me. But I hated this feeling of arranged marriage, and had never truly understood him. It seems I had always overlooked him. Since that day, I haven't seen Julian again. It is said that after discovering the cause of his brother's death, he became distraught and could no longer continue performing surgical operations. The once renowned surgical master had disappeared without a trace. But I heard a lot of inside information. My father was going to withdraw all his investments from the hospital. And in order to please this benefactor, the hospital quickly dismissed Julian from his position as director. Serena was taken away by the police on suspicion of murder, and was locked up in a detention center. Things had been peaceful for a while. Unexpectedly, as soon as I walked out of my house, I was attacked and everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was on the hospital rooftop, and Julian was beside me. He looked at me affectionately, but I felt a chill rise in my heart. There was a madness he couldn't hide in his eyes. Adeline, you're awake? Do you remember this place? His eyes were fixed on me. Of course I remember. On this rooftop, I had teetered on the brink of death again and again, and Julian had pulled me back each time. The once deeply engraved love now felt like a chicken rib. Tasteless to eat, a pity to discard. I pursed my lips tightly, sweating profusely, and nodded gently. I didn't dare speak casually, and even less dared to ignore him. for fear that one wrong word might trigger him and cause an irreversible, terrible consequence. He probably saw the fear in my eyes and looked sad. Adeline, I've been reborn. I remember all the things I did in my previous life. I'm sorry, I really. As he said that, he covered his face with his hands and cried bitterly. But soon his expression returned to normal, and he turned and pulled out a black cloth bag. Watching the objects in the bag struggle nonstop, I realized it was a living creature, and my scalp instantly went numb. But I never expected that it would be Serena inside. Her mouth was sealed with tape, and she couldn't speak, only making broken, unintelligible sounds. Julian leaned closer to me. Adeline, I will kill everyone who hurt you. Saying that, he walked over and ripped the tape off Serena's mouth. Serena suddenly burst into cursing. You coward, you were the one who cheated, but you blame it on me. Saying I gave you drugs, it was just a little something to enhance the mood. If you weren't interested in me, you could have just walked away. Serena's words completely enraged him. Julian, like a madman, grabbed the iron rod at hand and smashed it down on Serena's head. In no time, Serena stopped moving. Julian, still not satisfied, picked up Serena's body and threw it downstairs. I looked at him in horror, biting my lip, afraid to make any sound. He looked at me covered in blood, his eyes full of sadness, a shallow smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, but tears streamed down his face. Adeline, I'm leaving. Thank you for seeing me off. Without any more hesitation, he jumped. It was Miles who ran to the rooftop and found me. The first thing he did when he saw me was hug me tightly. I realized that every time I had lingered on the rooftop, he had been watching me not far away. Even without Julian, Miles would have snatched me back from the clutches of death. So, all along, there has been someone who loved me.